Story 1. After college, I was desperate for affordable housing. The city was expensive, and my entry-level salary barely covered rent. This happened to me, and I'll never forget the gnawing anxiety. I scoured every listing imaginable: Facebook groups, bulletin boards, even old-school classifieds. Nothing was within my budget that didn't involve a terrible commute or questionable living conditions. I was truly at my wit's end. My last resort was Craigslist. I'd heard horror stories, but also success stories. With dwindling savings, I had no choice. It felt like a gamble, a roll of the dice in a desperate game. That's when I saw it: spacious room, prime location, unbelievably cheap. It was too good to be true, a beacon of hope in my housing nightmare. My heart pounded with a mix of excitement and suspicion. The ad described a quiet professional seeking a respectful roommate. It mentioned a 2-bedroom apartment, shared living spaces, and all utilities included. It sounded perfect, almost suspiciously so. The landlord was listed as Mark. I sent an email, trying to sound confident despite my internal skepticism. I included my brief bio and availability, hoping for a quick reply. Mark responded swiftly. His email was polite, concise, and professional. He suggested a viewing the following day. My apprehension was overshadowed by the sheer possibility of finally having a place. I arrived at the apartment building, a respectable, older brick structure. My nerves were a mess. This could be my new home or another wasted trip. I took a deep breath and rang the bell. Mark opened the door. He was of average height, neatly dressed, with a mild, almost unmemorable face. His eyes, however, seemed to hold a peculiar stillness, an unnerving lack of warmth. He led me through the apartment. It was surprisingly clean and spacious, exactly as the photos suggested. Everything seemed to be in its place, almost too perfectly arranged, like a showroom. The room for rent was bright, with a decent closet. It felt like a dream come true. The low rent, the good location, the seemingly perfect apartment, it all added up to an undeniable appeal. Mark explained he worked from home, conducting research. He was vague about the specifics, but I didn't press. I was just relieved to find a place. His privacy felt understandable then. His bedroom door was conspicuously shut, and I noticed a heavy-duty lock. It seemed a bit excessive, but I shrugged it off as a quiet professional needing his space. Everyone has their quirks, right? I moved in a week later, brimming with relief. My boxes were stacked, and I started to unpack. It felt good to finally have a stable home, even if it came with a quiet, enigmatic roommate. Mark was indeed quiet. He kept to himself, his door almost always closed. I rarely saw him except for brief encounters in the kitchen. He was polite, almost to a fault, but distant. I tried to rationalize his reclusiveness. Maybe he was an introvert, or his research was highly confidential. It was better than a loud party animal, I told myself, trying to dismiss the unease. Days turned into weeks. I settled into a routine. The apartment was peaceful, almost eerily so. Yet a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the atmosphere began to make itself known. It started with a faint, sterile odor, like a hospital or a dentist's office. It wasn't unpleasant, but it was out of place in a home. It seemed to waft from Mark's room. I initially dismissed it as cleaning products. Maybe he was a clean freak, but the smell was persistent, a metallic undertone beneath the antiseptic. It was unsettling, growing stronger over time. Then I started noticing things left out. Small, delicate tools on the kitchen counter, tweezers, scalpels, magnifying glasses. They looked like surgical instruments, not hobby tools. I tried not to touch them. They felt cold, impersonal. When I asked Mark, he'd calmly retrieve them, explaining they were for his intricate model-making hobby. His explanation felt hollow. His questions about my schedule also grew more frequent. Working late tonight? Any plans for the weekend? His interest felt less like polite conversation and more like careful data collection. I started feeling watched. Every time I left, I felt his eyes on me. Every time I returned, I wondered if he knew exactly what I'd been doing, where I'd been. The apartment felt less like home. One night I heard it, a faint, rhythmic scraping sound from Mark's room. It was precise, deliberate, like something being carefully abraded, then a delicate clinking, like glass. I froze, my heart hammering. What was he doing in there? The sounds continued for hours, a chilling lullaby that kept me awake until dawn. I felt a primal dread creep into my bones. The next morning I found it, on the living room carpet, glinting in the pale light, a single antique doll's eye. It was made of glass, eerily realistic, with tiny painted veins. Before I could react, Mark emerged from his room. His eyes landed on the doll's eye. He moved with unnerving speed, scooping it up. "Ah, it must have rolled out," he said, smiling serenely. His smile didn't reach his eyes. It was a mask. The incident solidified my fear. Something was deeply, terribly wrong. My unease morphed into full-blown terror. A few days later, Mark left a book on the coffee table. It was a dense medical text. Curiosity, or perhaps a desperate need to understand, compelled me to open it. This was my mistake. Tucked inside, like morbid bookmarks, were old newspaper clippings. Yellowed and brittle, they detailed local disappearances. My blood ran cold as I read the dates, the names. All the victims were young, recent movers to the city. All of them had advertised for roommates on Craigslist. A sickening pattern emerged, a horrifying commonality. It couldn't be a coincidence. Panic seized me. My mind raced, connecting every odd detail: the sterile smell, the tools, the doll's eye, his questions, his locked door. It was all clicking into a monstrous picture. I grabbed my phone, fingers trembling. I searched Mark Craigslist roommate and the names from the clippings. What I found next confirmed my worst, most unspeakable fears. An obscure, disturbing forum dedicated to preservation of unique specimens. Posts discussed articulation and display techniques. It was a community for collectors of human remains. My own name, or rather a username similar to mine, was mentioned in a chilling thread. Someone was discussing a new acquisition, a fresh specimen. I was the next target. I was living with a monster. My cheap room was a trap and I was the prey. Every breath felt like a scream caught in my throat. I had to get out, but how? Mark left for what he called supply run. This was my chance. My hands shook as I grabbed a bobby pin. Driven by terror and a desperate need to know, I approached his locked door. The lock clicked, the sound echoed in the silent apartment. I pushed the door open, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The sterile smell was overpowering now. What I saw inside will haunt me forever. Glass cases lined the walls, each containing a meticulously preserved, lifelike human figure. They were posed, artfully arranged, like macabre dolls. Their eyes, unsettlingly clear, seemed to follow me. Each case had a small plaque, a name, a date. The dates matched the newspaper clippings. My breath hitched. It was real, all of it. I recognized some of the faces from the clippings, now forever frozen in Mark's horrifying collection. My vision blurred, the room spinning. I was looking at his victims. A sudden click, the front door. Mark was back. His footsteps approached, slow and deliberate, growing louder. I was trapped, caught in the lair of a predator. Panic surged. My mind screamed, *run, adrenaline coursed through me, a desperate jolt of survival. I had to move now or join his collection. My life depended on this moment. I lunged out of the room, bursting into the hallway. Mark was there, his expression changing from calm to a chilling understanding. His eyes widened, but his smile remained. I didn't stop, didn't look back. I sprinted through the living room, fumbling with the deadbolt. The click of the lock this time was salvation. I burst out into the hallway, then the stairs. Down the stairs, two at a time, my lungs burning. I didn't care about my belongings, my phone, anything, only escape. I never looked back at that building, that apartment. I called the police from a payphone, my voice ragged with terror. They investigated but found nothing. No mark, no collection, no trace. He had vanished, taking his horrors with him. I never returned to that apartment. Everything I owned was left behind. It was a small price to pay for my life. The memory, however, remains vivid, a permanent scar on my psyche. The police closed the case, baffled, but I know he's still out there, a quiet professional searching for his next specimen. He's probably already posted a new ad. I'll never forget that night. The chilling fear that he's still out there seeking his next acquisition haunts me to this day. Every Craigslist ad, every quiet stranger sends a shiver down my spine. Story 2, this happened to me. As a struggling artist, money was always tight. My small apartment was filled with canvases and the scent of turpentine. I desperately needed cash for rent and supplies. My eyes fell upon the antique vanity mirror, a family heirloom. It was beautiful, with intricate carvings and aged silver. Selling it felt like a betrayal, but survival called. I remembered my grandmother's stories about it, whispers of old magic and seeing what isn't there. I'd always dismissed them as charming folklore, but a faint unease stirred within me. Reluctantly, I decided to list it online. Craigslist seemed the quickest option. I took several photos, trying to capture its elegance, hoping for a fast sale. I wrote a detailed description emphasizing its antique value, carefully avoiding any mention of its unsettling history. I just wanted it gone and the money in my hand. The ad went live. That evening, passing the mirror, I paused. My reflection seemed off, a flicker, a subtle distortion like water rippling. Then I saw it, a fleeting movement in the background of the reflection, a shadow that wasn't actually there in my apartment. I spun around, but nothing. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, just tired, I told myself. Long hours painting, stress over rent. It had to be my imagination playing tricks. But the feeling persisted. The next day, I caught another glimpse. My reflection's smile seemed to linger a fraction too long, a ghostly echo after my own faded. It was unsettling. I found myself consciously avoiding looking directly into the mirror when I passed. A strange sense of dread began to settle. One afternoon, my reflection's eyes seemed to follow me as I moved. I tested it, walking back and forth. Yes, they definitely tracked my movements, independent of my own gaze. A cold shiver ran down my spine. This wasn't imagination. This was real. The mirror was doing something, and it was terrifying me. The visual distortions escalated. My face in the mirror began to appear slightly elongated, my features subtly stretched or compressed like a funhouse mirror. Objects in the room, seen through the mirror's frame, would appear distorted. My easel looked twisted, my paintbrushes bent at impossible angles. A small ceramic vase on my shelf, perfectly upright in reality, would be tilted precariously in the mirror, threatening to spill its contents. My apartment, normally a sanctuary, now felt alien when viewed through that accursed glass. It was a window to a subtly wrong world. I tried to rationalize it, blaming my poor diet, lack of sleep, or even a faulty antique glass. But deep down, I knew it was something else entirely. The distortions weren't random. They seemed to focus on things I cherished, art supplies, small personal mementos, making them appear grotesque. I started avoiding my reflection altogether, but the mirror was large, dominating the living room. It was impossible to ignore its presence. The glass itself seemed to deepen, becoming darker, more opaque. It felt less like a reflection and more like a window into a murky abyss. Sometimes I'd catch a glimpse of movement, not just shadows, but faint, indistinct figures swirling at the edges of my peripheral vision within the glass. The mirror felt alive, watching me. Its presence was a constant, chilling weight in my small apartment, a silent observer of my growing fear. Then came the sounds. Soft whispers, barely audible, seemed to emanate directly from the mirror. They were too faint to decipher, just a sibilant murmur. Faint scratching sounds like fingernails dragging across wood would echo from its direction, especially late at night when the apartment was silent. I checked every surface, every wall, looking for a source, a rodent, anything. There was nothing. The sounds simply ceased when I got too close. Inexplicable cold spots formed around the mirror. I'd walk past and the air would suddenly drop several degrees, raising goosebumps on my arms. The temperature anomalies were so localized, so specific to the mirror's immediate vicinity, it defied all logic. My rational mind was crumbling. A constant, unnerving feeling of being watched now accompanied me. Not just by the mirror, but from the mirror, its gaze felt tangible. The air around it felt heavy, thick, with an unseen presence. It was no longer just an object, it was a malevolent entity residing in my home. I started sleeping with the lights on, a pathetic attempt to ward off the encroaching darkness, but even light couldn't pierce the mirror's influence. My sleep became truly disturbed. Nightmares, vivid and terrifying, plagued me. Always the mirror was at the center of them. I saw distorted reflections of myself, screaming silently, trapped behind glass. Shadowy hands would reach out from the depths of the mirror, clawing at me. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, heart pounding, convinced I could still feel phantom fingers brushing my skin. The fear was consuming me. The constant sense of being watched intensified. I felt its unseen eyes on me, even when I was in a different room, a chilling awareness. Especially when I was near the mirror, the pressure was immense. It felt like a physical weight pushing down on my chest, making breathing difficult. My artistic focus shattered. I couldn't paint, couldn't concentrate. Every brush stroke felt tainted, every color dulled by the pervasive dread. Paranoia set in. I started checking locks multiple times, jumping at every creak of the old building. My sanity felt stretched thin. I knew I had to get rid of it. The Craigslist buyer couldn't come soon enough. The mirror was destroying my life, piece by terrifying piece. The pickup date for the buyer approached. As if sensing its impending departure, the mirror's malevolence intensified, becoming almost unbearable. Shadows around it deepened, clinging to its frame like grasping tendrils. The apartment felt colder, heavier, steeped in its oppressive aura. The faint whispers grew louder, more insistent, though still unintelligible. They seemed to coil around me, a venomous, unseen language. A distinct sense of presence filled the room, a malevolent will radiating from the mirror, clearly communicating. It did not want to leave. The air crackled with unseen energy whenever I neared it. It was like approaching a storm, a gathering of dark, powerful forces. I felt a desperate urgency, a need to expel it from my home before it completely consumed me. My life depended on its departure. The night before the sale, the mirror fully manifested its will. I saw my reflection staring back, but its expression was not mine. It was a sneer. Then a shadowy figure, distinct and menacing, emerged from behind my reflection, its spectral hand reaching out, attempting to grasp me through the glass. Panicked, I tried to cover it with a sheet, but the mirror felt physically resistant, vibrating with a low hum, pushing back against my efforts. I eventually wrestled the sheet over it, exhausted. The buyer arrived the next morning. I rushed the exchange, feigning normalcy, my heart hammering. I wanted it out of my sight, out of my life, immediately. As the buyers carried it away, I felt its lingering gaze, a chilling weight that seemed to press against my chest, even through the sheet. a final, malevolent farewell. The mirror is gone, but my apartment feels tainted. I still catch glimpses of distorted reflections in other surfaces, hear faint echoes. I'll never forget that night. The terrifying realization haunts me. The curse may have merely moved on, or worse, left an indelible mark on me and my home. Story 3. This happened to me. I was a broke college student, drowning in student loan debt, scrambling for any extra cash. My fridge was empty and the landlord was calling. Desperation led me to the odd job section of Craigslist, a place usually reserved for questionable endeavors. That's when I saw it, remote house sitting high pay. The ad was brief, almost too good to be true. My gut screamed caution, but my wallet screamed louder. High pay for house sitting? It felt like a lifeline thrown to a drowning person, a chance I couldn't ignore. I clicked on it, my heart pounding with a mix of hope and dread. The details were sparse, requesting only an email for inquiries. No phone number, no address, just an anonymous email address. Red flags fluttered, but the promise of financial relief overshadowed them all. I crafted a polite, professional email highlighting my reliability and need for work. I tried to sound confident, not desperate, despite the gnawing anxiety in my stomach. I hit send, then immediately regretted it, wondering what I had just gotten myself into. A reply came surprisingly fast from someone who identified himself only as Mr. Thorne. His emails were vague yet polite, formal almost to a fault. He offered an incredible sum for just 2 weeks of house sitting. The money was truly astounding. He explained the property was a remote, isolated estate, hours from any major town. This was the first catch, but for the offered pay, I reasoned a little solitude wasn't a problem. I imagined quiet days, reading books, enjoying nature. Then came the second catch, a list of unusual house rules. Mr. Thorne assured me they were merely eccentricities of an old house and an absent owner. I skimmed them, finding them odd but seemingly manageable, nothing overtly sinister. Yet a tiny seed of doubt was planted. I agreed to the terms, the incredible pay blinding me to any lingering reservations. Mr. Thorne arranged for a private car to take me to the property, emphasizing that no personal vehicles were allowed. Another unusual rule, but I shrugged it off as a security measure. The drive was long, taking me deeper and deeper into dense woods. Civilization slowly melted away, replaced by towering trees and an eerie silence. My phone signal vanished about an hour into the journey, leaving me completely cut off. Finally, the car pulled up to a massive, wrought iron gate. Beyond it, a long, overgrown driveway led to a house that was grand, yes, but also undeniably oppressive. It stood like a dark sentinel, nestled deep within the unforgiving woods. The driver, a silent man who barely made eye contact, handed me a heavy brass key and a satellite phone, pre-programmed only for Mr. Thorne. He gave me a curt nod and drove away, leaving me utterly alone at the threshold of the imposing house. Stepping inside, the air was thick with the scent of dust and old wood. The silence was immediate and profound, broken only by the creak of my own footsteps on the polished floors. Every shadow seemed to stretch and deepen, making the vast rooms feel even larger. I consulted the list of rules Mr. Thorne had provided. The first was simple: never, under any circumstances, open the attic door. It was a heavy, old door on the second floor, almost blending into the wall, but now it felt like a focal point. Another rule specified keeping certain lights on at night, particularly in the main hall and the study. It seemed wasteful, but I complied, flipping switches, bathing the old house in an unnatural, constant glow that did little to dispel the gloom. I was also instructed to water a collection of exotic plants daily, which seemed normal enough. The final, and perhaps most unsettling, initial rule was absolutely no visitors. Complete isolation was paramount, Mr. Thorne had stressed. Days turned into a week, each one blurring into the next. The isolation began to wear on me, a heavy cloak settling over my mind. The initial excitement of the high pay was slowly replaced by a pervasive sense of loneliness. The house itself seemed to breathe around me. I'd hear creaks and groans that weren't settling, the old timbers shifting, the wind sighing through ill-fitting windows. Each sound echoed, amplified by the suffocating silence. The silence was deafening, a constant pressure on my ears. It made me hyper-aware of every tiny noise, every rustle of leaves outside, every drop of water in the pipes. I started feeling watched, especially at night. A few times I swore I saw movement in the periphery of my vision, a shadow darting across a doorway, a flicker in the mirror. When I turned, nothing was there. My mind, I told myself, was simply playing tricks on me, a byproduct of the intense solitude. I tried to rationalize it all away, the vastness of the house, the old age, my own exhaustion. But the feeling persisted, a cold prickle on my skin, a sense of unseen eyes following my every move from the depths of the shadows. Mr. Thorne's emails, sent via the satellite phone, became more frequent and alarmingly specific. He seemed to know what I was doing when I was doing it. Ensure the west-facing window blinds are closed by 6:03 p.m., not 6:00, not 6:05. One read. Another email, sent just an hour after I'd entered the study, warned, "Do not disturb the dust on the mantelpiece in the study. It is crucial for the house's balance." My heart skipped a beat. How did he know I'd been in the study? He started asking me to report any unusual sounds from the basement, no matter how faint. This was a new instruction, and it brought a fresh wave of dread. The basement had been implicitly off-limits, never mentioned until now. The precision of his instructions, combined with the unnerving feeling of being observed, started chipping away at my resolve. This wasn't just house-sitting. It felt like I was part of some elaborate, unsettling experiment. My curiosity, a dangerous trait in an old, isolated house, began to get the better of me. I started subtly bending the rules, testing the boundaries, desperate for answers to the strange occurrences. I accidentally lingered in the study, drawn to that mantelpiece. I noticed an old, tarnished silver locket nestled amongst the dust, gleaming faintly. It was untouched, as if nothing dared to disturb its place. One afternoon, my courage emboldened by desperation, I tried the attic door. It was locked, as expected, but as I pressed my ear against the cold wood, a faint, metallic scent seemed to seep from beneath it, like old blood and rust. The smell made my stomach churn. It was a smell that spoke of something ancient and unspeakable, something that had been contained for a very long time. The never-open rule suddenly felt less like an eccentricity and more like a dire warning. One night, I woke abruptly to a distinct scratching sound coming from the wall directly beside my bed. It was rhythmic, persistent, like claws dragging slowly, deliberately across plaster. I held my breath, listening. The scratching continued for what felt like hours, a constant, chilling reminder that I was not alone in this house. My heart hammered against my ribs, and I pulled the blankets tighter, too terrified to move. The next morning, I stumbled out of bed, exhausted and shaken. That's when I saw it. A small, antique doll, which I remembered seeing locked away in a glass cabinet in the living room, was now sitting on my bedside table, facing me. Its painted eyes seemed to hold a knowing gaze, a silent accusation. I stared at it, my blood turning to ice. How could it have moved? I started questioning my sanity, the isolation playing cruel, terrifying tricks on me. Mr. Thorne had explicitly forbidden the basement, but after that night of the scratching and the doll, I couldn't ignore the whispers anymore. They were faint at first, then growing, calling to me from beneath the floorboards. I searched frantically, driven by a desperate need for answers, and found a hidden key tucked beneath a loose floorboard near the basement door. It was old, tarnished, and fit the lock perfectly. Downstairs, the basement was cold, damp, and smelled of earth and decay. It was a labyrinth of forgotten things, shrouded in thick cobwebs. My flashlight beam cut through the oppressive darkness, revealing shelves of dusty relics. Tucked away on a forgotten shelf beneath a pile of old canvases, I found it, an ancient, leather-bound journal. Its pages were brittle, filled with elegant, looping script that detailed strange rituals, dates, and names. My hands trembled as I read. This wasn't about house-sitting, it was about asterisk containment asterisk. The journal spoke of the dweller, something ancient, malevolent, trapped within the house, specifically in the attic. The house rules weren't for the house's upkeep, but to keep it contained, to maintain the delicate balance that kept the dweller dormant. My arrival wasn't for house-sitting, it was to serve as a temporary anchor or distraction. A cold dread washed over me, deeper and more profound than anything I'd felt before. I was bait, a sacrificial lamb. Realizing I was in grave danger, I scrambled, clutching the journal, desperate to escape. I ran to my car, parked where the driver had left it, but the engine wouldn't turn over. It sputtered, coughed, and died. Again and again, nothing. The car was dead. I was stranded. I fumbled for the satellite phone, my only link to the outside world, but its screen was dark, dead, completely useless. Mr. Thorne had cut me off, sealing my fate. Then I heard it, a guttural growl, deep and resonant, emanated from the attic directly above me. It was followed by the unmistakable, horrifying sound of wood splintering, loud and violent. The lock on the attic door was giving way. I could hear the desperate, tortured creak of metal, the groaning of ancient wood. The dweller was breaking free, and I was still inside the house. Panic seized me, pure and unadulterated. I didn't think, I just ran. I burst out of the house, not daring to look back, and sprinted into the dark, unforgiving woods. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs ached, until I thought I would collapse. The sounds of the house, the growls and splintering wood, slowly faded behind me, replaced by the rustle of leaves and my own ragged breaths. After what felt like an eternity, I stumbled onto a desolate gravel road. My heart leaped when I saw distant headlights. I flagged down a passing truck, half sobbing, half screaming for help. The kind trucker, a grizzled man with weary eyes, didn't ask questions. He just let me in, his silence a comfort. I never looked back, never dared to glance at the dark woods from which I had just escaped. I survived, but the experience left an indelible mark on my soul. I still have nightmares about the scratching in the walls, the chilling whispers, and the knowing gaze of that antique doll. The memory of that metallic scent from the attic door haunts me, a constant reminder of what lay trapped within. I can still feel the cold dread of realizing I was nothing more than a pawn in a terrifying game. I often wonder if someone else, desperate like I was, answered a similar Craigslist ad, or if the dweller eventually broke free, its malevolence unleashed upon an unsuspecting world. I'll never know, and perhaps it's better that way. Story 4. My partner Alex and I, fresh out of college, found our dream first apartment. Furnishing it on a shoestring budget meant daily Craigslist searches. We scrolled through countless listings. A couch was essential, but a perfect one seemed impossible on our budget. Then a stunning free vintage velvet couch ad appeared. Emerald green, beautifully tufted. It felt too good to be true. Our hearts hammered with excitement. We messaged the seller immediately, thrilled by our Craigslist triumph. The address led us to an old, sagging house on a quiet street. A faint sense of unease settled over me. An older woman answered, her pale blue eyes piercing. Her house was dim, filled with a musty, stagnant air. "You're here for the couch," she rasped, gesturing vaguely towards the gloom. No smile, no invitation. The couch was in a dark room. As we uncovered it, the velvet gleamed, but the room felt heavy, like a tomb. The old woman watched silently, her gaze unnervingly intense. It felt less like a farewell, more a transfer. Loading the couch was a struggle. It felt impossibly heavy. She watched until we drove away, eerily still. She hadn't asked our names, offered hers. The interaction felt more like a ritual than a transaction. Back home, the couch barely fit. Finally in place, it dominated our small living room. We were exhausted, triumphant. "It's perfect," Alex breathed, but a faint, musty smell emanated from it. I dismissed it as vintage. A subtle chill hovered around the couch, a distinct cold spot. We joked, but I pulled my blanket tighter. That first night, Alex woke up screaming, drenched in sweat. He dreamt of being trapped, suffocated by immense weight. His nightmares grew frequent. I, too, experienced restless sleep, a constant feeling of being watched. During the day, I'd glimpse fleeting shadows, hear faint whispers near the couch. We tried to rationalize it. Small items near the couch started to shift. A coaster moved, a book askew. The rationalizations felt thin. Alex swore he saw a gaunt, angry face reflected in the TV screen sitting on the couch. Nothing was there. The temperature around the couch became undeniably colder, a chilling pocket of air that made hairs stand up. One afternoon, a heavy art book slid off the nearby shelf with a loud thud. No explanation. Our excitement for the apartment vanished. We were constantly on edge, irritable, plagued by paranoia. We knew it was the couch. Something dark had entered our home, but a strange inertia held us back. Alex, desperate, researched haunted furniture. He found an old local news clipping online. His face went ashen. The clipping detailed Eleanor Vance, a reclusive woman, found deceased in her home, unexplained circumstances. The address matched where we'd picked up the couch. My blood ran cold. The article hinted at Eleanor's unusual practices. She was found on her beloved velvet couch, our couch. The couch wasn't just old, it was a vessel. Eleanor Vance, or something of her, had moved in with us. That night, the apartment grew thick with palpable dread. We huddled in bed, too afraid to move. A clear, guttural whisper cut through the silence. Mine, then my name, chilling me to the bone. The living room instantly grew frigid. I saw my own breath. Pure terror seized me, freezing me in place. On the couch, a dark, indistinct shape coalesced, a hunched, shadowy figure radiating malevolence. This was real. Eleanor Vance was here, angry. We had invited her in, and she wasn't leaving. Alex grabbed my hand, his grip crushing. We had to get it out, now. In a frantic panic, we stumbled into the living room. A low growl rumbled from the couch. The couch felt impossibly heavy. We dragged it, scraping across the floor, a horrifying screech. We wrestled it through the doorway. The cold intensified as if it fought to stay. With a desperate heave, we shoved it onto the curb. It sat there, mundane yet radiating dread. We scrambled inside, locking the door, gasping, relief mixed with terror. Had we truly gotten rid of her? The apartment felt lighter, but the silence was heavy with echoes. Something had imprinted itself. Weeks passed, we still jumped at every creak. The living room felt like a wound. One morning, the couch was gone from the curb. Dread washed over us. Had we passed on the burden? But the oppressive feeling never entirely left. We still experience inexplicable cold spots, especially in the living room. Sometimes, alone, I hear faint whispers, a name called. My heart races every time. The nightmares still return, trapped, heavy weight, pale, angry eyes. Alex still wakes up gasping. We got rid of the vessel, but the dark presence we invited in might still be here. It taught us some things are free for a reason. Some burdens are impossible to shake off. We bought a new couch, but it never felt safe. Our dream home is now a chilling reminder. I catch flickers of movement, cold air, whispers. Eleanor Vance never truly left. She's still here, watching, waiting. Our home is a shared space, a testament to unseen horrors. It's still happening. Story 5. My apartment felt like a tomb. Loneliness consumed me. I craved companionship. A pet I thought would fill this void. This happened to me. I browsed online Craigslist, an ad, sweet, quiet cat needs loving home. Brief, odd, yet compelling, a blurry black cat. I messaged the seller, instant, terse reply, meet park entrance tonight, 8 p.m., cash, no pleasantries, just demands. My unease grew. The park was deserted, a cloaked figure emerged, face obscured. He held a carrier. Quick, silent exchange, a chilling transaction. His eyes, obsidian chips, ancient, devoid of warmth. He vanished. I was left with the carrier, profoundly unsettled. I'll never forget. Inside, a sleek black cat lay perfectly still. No meows, just an intense, emerald gaze. I named her Mittens, hoping for normalcy. Bringing Mittens home, I expected antics. She did none. She moved with unnerving grace, silently observing every corner, every movement. She never purred, never played. Her silence was absolute, a palpable weight. She just watched, always watched. It was observing, calculating. I felt like a specimen. Her quiet intensity unsettling, apartment feeling smaller, not my own. I tried engaging her with toys. She tracked them but never moved. Her disinterest in play felt unnatural. It was disturbing. Her silence became oppressive, unnatural stillness, absorbing all sound. The apartment held its breath whenever Mittens was present. I rationalized it as shyness, but the wrongness persisted, a cold knot. My peace of mind slowly eroded. The apartment felt like a stage, I the performer. Mittens, my silent audience. Tension hung heavy. Then scratches started, small marks on my bedroom wall near the ceiling. Too high for Mittens, too deliberate. More appeared overnight, geometric patterns. Ancient, symbolic, etched into plaster, defiant. My heart pounded. I watched Mittens. She never climbed, yet scratches multiplied in impossible places. A chilling suspicion. If not Mittens, then what? No logical explanation. Only certainty I wasn't alone. Apartment haunted. My paranoia intensified. I documented marks, hoping for meaning. Each new scratch deepened dread. One night I saw it, a tall shadow moving near the wall. I spun, only Mittens' eyes reflecting moonlight. Or was something unseen leaving these marks? Terrifying thought. My sanity felt precarious. I'll never forget. I talked to her, testing Mittens about the scratches. Ears twitched, head tilted, understanding. No meow, knowing gaze. She understood my thoughts, frustration, fear, an insidious presence anticipating emotions. I felt exposed. Intelligence in her eyes was undeniable. Cold, ancient wisdom, not feline, something older, sinister, predatory gleam. I tested, silently willing her onto the table. Her eyes met mine. She leaped. My heart dropped. No ordinary animal. The line between pet and entity blurred. I lived with something ancient, manipulative. My will diminished. Nightmares began, visions of shadowy figures, arcane rituals, whispers echoed, leaving me drenched in sweat. Dreams intensified, bleeding into waking. Flashes of symbols, faint whispers near Mittens. Reality slipped. Mittens grew possessive, friends visited, she'd stare them down, they left. My social circle dwindled, isolated. Family stopped calling, my fear-strained voice worried them, or Mittens' influence cut me off, truly alone. I was trapped, alone with this creature, my apartment its domain, every shadow a threat, every creak a warning. My home became my prison, Mittens my silent warden, no escape, its power pressed in, growing stronger. Desperate, I researched ancient symbols, deciphering wall scratches. Screen glowed late, revealing cryptic texts, lore. I remembered the carrier, the cheap plastic box. Impulse, check it, maybe a clue remained to this nightmare. Tucked into a hidden seam, a folded paper. Old, brittle, elegant script, my hands trembled, dread washed over me. Words swam, the vessel is awakened. Ancient bond renewed, seeks new host, hunger grows, do not resist. My blood ran cold, Mittens, not a cat but a vessel for malevolence. I was the host, a physical blow. I looked up, mittens blocked the doorway, her form shimmered, growing. Emerald eyes glowed with hellish light. It was here. An ancient, vast voice filled my mind. Not a sound, but a telepathic whisper. You understand, little host. The whisper, I am Legion, ancient, eternal. Your mind, your body, my new throne. My will faltered. Panic seized me. I scrambled for escape. Entity moved with impossible speed, blocking exits. A silent guardian. It wasn't a cat, it was a force, a living nightmare. Its intent, consume, possess me, puppet my flesh. Air grew heavy, suffocating. Whispers intensified, promising oblivion. My mind stretched, pulled apart, consumed. A brief window, flicker of strength. Primal fear overrode influence. I screamed, shoving past it, towards the door. The front door, my only hope, hands shook, fumbling the lock. Its presence burned at my back, radiating fury. Finally, the click, I burst into the night, abandoning everything. Home, belongings, sanity, all forfeit. I ran blindly, cold night air shocked lungs. I only knew, get away, far away from *it*. I never went back, apartment vacant, monument to terror. Every shadow, stray cat, a jolt of ice. I'm a shell, forever paranoid, watching. Its eyes in darkness, whispers in wind. Isolation, self-imposed. The entity is still out there, I know. Perhaps a new vessel, a new host, or waiting for me. I'll never be truly safe again. The horror continues, a silent, watchful threat. I am still being hunted.